And I'm not going to lie, there were definitely moments when it felt like nothing was happening. And then I got up, I went to sleep, and I didn't think much more about it. The very next day, he texted me. He asked me if I wanted to meet. He said that he had been thinking about me the entire time. You're trying to manifest your true love specific person, what I like to refer to as mirror soul on my channel. It's been a couple months or maybe even more than a year or even more than a couple years. It could be a matter of discipline and whether you actually have a deep foundation of understanding who you actually are in your reality, as well as loving yourself deeply, trusting in yourself and believing in yourself and believing in love and that your person is strong, capable, loving, devoted, and all of that wonderful stuff too. Because if you continue to blame yourself and not trust or believe in yourself, then how can you be forgiven? How can you have somebody who will believe in you or trust you if you don't give those things to yourself? And in the same way, if you keep blaming and being upset and angry at your true love, then what exactly do you think you're going to experience in your 3D? Because in order for you to be very angry, then that would mean that you're still holding on to the words that were said and the things that you experienced with them. But those things that were said and the things that you experienced with them were a manifestation of your awareness back when you experienced them. So sometimes what people don't realize they're doing is they become aware of this. They do shallow based surface level affirmations, but they're just scratching the surface. It should be relatively short and sweet. I may need to do it in two parts because I have somebody on the way to do a little something to my new car that I just bought. I want to have something added to it. So somebody's on the way to do that. Anyway, happy Sunday. I'm going to get into this. Before I do, if you do love my content, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps me grow. If you want me to be your coach to help you manifest anything related to your true love, specific person, what I like to refer to as a mirror soul, email a short description to kim@coreunion.com. Go to the website, coreunion.com, book either a single session or a package, and my scheduling assistant, Olga, will get back to you with my next available session. Most people do choose to do the packages, especially a lot of the success stories that I've shared in the Deep Soul Connection playlist. Okay, and so like I always like to say, before you listen to a success story of unfolding or whatever it is, one of the worst things that you can do for yourself and for anything that you're manifesting in your life is to compare yourself to others. Take note of the things that the client describes that she may have done. And then in your own reality and in your energy and in your thoughts and your feelings, apply what you hear. You have to apply. You can't just listen to video after video after video after video after video. And then if you're in your feelings or doubt or fear, turn within and be more disciplined with what you allow yourself to remain aware of and what you ruminate on. Because all creation is already existing, is already done, not created by you, the ego, but created by the greater God. And your awareness and where you allow yourself to stay and dwell on is what you will end up experiencing in your life. Okay, so now I just got a motion detection from my front door. Hopefully nobody interrupts. Hello, Kim. I genuinely cannot believe that I am finally writing a success story for you. I have known about your channel for about a year, but it wasn't until April when things ended very badly between me and my person that I truly started applying what I had learned from you. I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happened between us or speak negatively about him because I know everyone has their own opinions about how things ended, and I don't want to feed into any negativity surrounding the situation anymore. Let's just say that at the beginning of April, our relationship ended very roughly, and I was honestly at one of the lowest points I had ever been in my life. I didn't really know what to do. I was heartbroken, anxious, and crying almost every single day. I had heard about different repetition methods and manifestation techniques before, and I had tried some of them, but I knew I needed more direction. One of the things I was most looking forward to was finally having a meeting with you because I wanted some guidance on what I should actually be doing from that point forward. Before our meeting, I was trying my best to pull myself together, but I was still extremely emotional. I wasn't really manifesting from a calm or a confident place because the breakup was still so fresh. I was thinking about him constantly, and I was still very anxious about the entire situation. Then I had my meeting with you. And honestly, that meeting changed everything for me. You told me to start my mornings with God, to do my I am one with God, God is one with me practice. Think about the things I was grateful for and then visualize my end scene with my SP. You also told me that I didn't have to be extremely rigid about having one specific end scene. I could allow myself to visualize the relationship and the feeling of already having what I wanted. So that is exactly what I did. And a couple things that she left out here. Well, okay, yes. Always start your day that way, but also start in your own I am awareness, love for yourself, and having clarity of the other things you want to manifest in your life too, like health, money, success, career. Okay, as well as your person. So I did it religiously every single morning and every single night for the next couple of months throughout May and June. I made it part of my routine and I stayed committed to it even when I didn't necessarily feel like I was seeing any movement in the 3D. I also completely changed the way I interacted with social media. At the beginning, I would occasionally check his social media, but I wasn't checking it in the way I used to. I wasn't constantly looking for evidence that he was following someone new or trying to figure out what he was doing. Eventually, I completely stopped following him and I even deleted social media for quite a while. And that's really a good idea. My focus became myself and what I was doing internally. Whenever negative thoughts came up during the day, I would reaffirm, I would tell myself things like, I am the best he's ever had. I'm the most amazing woman he has ever met. I am excuse me, there's absolutely no one like me. I wasn't trying to obsess over affirmations all day long. They were simply things I would return to whenever my mind started going in the opposite direction of what I wanted. And I'm not going to lie, there were definitely moments when it felt like nothing was happening. There were many times when I genuinely thought maybe he's not coming back. And one thing that really tested me happened when I made a dating profile around May or June and saw his profile on there. But instead of letting that completely derail me, I reminded myself of what I had been practicing. I reminded myself that there is no one else like me and that I am the only person that he wants. Eventually, I just kept going. Then around July, something interesting happened because of some of old fears I still carried from my previous relationship. I actually ended up meeting someone new. And for a while, I thought maybe I don't even want my specific person anymore. I thought maybe this new person was what I wanted instead. So she was in the middle of wavering, which is fine for some people. And in some cases, this is the exact bridge of events that ends up bringing you together with your person. And in other cases, it's just your ego needing and seeking validation. If your heart and soul is really guiding you to do this, then listen to it. Okay. But you really want to be clear on why you're being inspired, what's inspiring you to do all this. Okay. So, but because I still had a lot of unresolved fear from the past, I ended up sabotaging that situation as well. At the same time, I was trying to manifest this new person while also in the background wanting an apology and some sort of reconciliation with my SP. And then somewhere along the way, I just stopped thinking about it so much. I stopped trying to figure out exactly when it would happen. I stopped constantly wondering what he was doing. I basically reached the point where I thought maybe one day we'll reconcile, maybe he'll come back into my life. And I let it be. But there's one detail I really want to mention because looking back, the timing was almost unbelievable. The night before he reached out to me, I did my visual gratitude practice. So you see, she was still doing her visual gratitude practice, even though in her own words, it almost sounded like she was just letting it be and letting it go. But she was still doing her gratitude practice. I had always done my gratitude from my bed along with the rest of my nighttime routine. But that night, I decided to do something slightly different. I actually got down on my knees and I prayed to God. And when I say prayed, I don't necessarily mean that I was asking God for something. I was giving thanks. And we always want to do that to the greater God. Always start your day in giving praise and thanks for, how you were created, who you were created to be, your mind, body, and soul, and the power that you were given, and all of that wonderful stuff. And yes, when we pray in giving thanks. We pray in giving praise and thanks. So that was wonderful. So she said something along the lines of, I am grateful that my SP has come back to me. And then I continued with the rest of my gratitude, thanking God for the other things in my life. Perfect. The important part was that I was thanking God for something that technically I hadn't happened yet in the 3D, but internally I already considered it done. I wasn't saying, God, please make him come back. I was saying, thank you for bringing him back. And then I got up, I went to sleep, and I didn't think much more about it. The very next day, he texted me. He asked me if I wanted to meet. I genuinely couldn't believe it. It was the middle of August, and remember, we hadn't seen each other since April. The day before, I had literally been on my knees, thanking God for my SP coming back to me. And the next day, he was in my messages. I was shocked. And what made it even more surprising was that I had actually reached out to him twice before, once in May and once in June. I had told him that I was having a really difficult time moving on and asked if he would be willing to meet. He never ghosted me or completely ignored me. He simply told me that he didn't want to. See, because she technically, when she sent those messages, she actually wasn't sending it with love. She was sending it still probably herself not truly being ready, because if she was truly ready and aligned when she sent those messages, then he most likely would have also been ready. And I know a lot of you guys would argue that, but sorry, just basing it on, again, on experience. So I was literally over the moon. But at the same time, I had to ground myself and remind myself, of course, he came back. There's no one else like me. And honestly, I think this was one of the biggest moments where I realized how much my mindset had changed. Because if this had happened a few months earlier, I probably would have completely crashed out. That's very good. I would have analyzed every word, wondered what it meant, wondered if he was going to disappear again, and immediately started worrying about what was going to happen next. Exactly. Instead, I was excited, obviously, but I was also able to remain grounded. Very, very good. And then what happened when we finally spoke was even more interesting. I told him that at the beginning, I had been crying over him constantly and thinking about him all the time. But I also told him that during the last few weeks, I had actually started moving on, and I was being completely honest. My original end scene had always been marriage, being his wife, building a life together and having that committed relationship. And then he told me something that completely surprised me. He said that he had been thinking about me the entire time. You see, I'll just say that again for a lot of you guys who are questioning everything because you're not hearing back from your person. He said that he had been thinking about me the entire time. I had assumed that because I had seen him on dating apps that he must have been going on tons of dates and meeting a ton of other women. But according to him, he had really only gone on one date and it didn't work out. From what I understood, he had actually been catfished. And I remember thinking, wow, because this was a man who, from an outside perspective, could theoretically go out and meet whomever he wanted. He is extremely attractive. He's about 6'5", light eyes, dark hair, muscular, and objectively, he gets a lot of attention. But my entire mindset had become, it doesn't matter what he looks like. It doesn't matter how many women theoretically exist in the world. There is only me, and I'm always chosen. And I genuinely believe that. And that's perfect. I believe I am one of a kind. I believe I am the best woman he's ever met. I believe there is no one who compares to me. That is perfection. And that belief completely changed the way I viewed the situation. We ended up meeting at my place and we became intimate. Afterwards, we had a really honest conversation about the breakup. He explained that he had ended things because he felt betrayed. And he also told me that he is starting school again and that he would have to think about whether he wanted a relationship right now. Okay, right there, that is a reflection potentially of still a little bit of you not quite knowing that your love is secure and that you guys are good enough for each other and that you trust each other completely. Okay, I'm just letting you know that. Obviously, that wasn't exactly what I wanted to hear. Okay, so keep in mind what I just said. So that's starting to go into a little bit of ego, and that's totally fine. But I would suggest instead of going in that direction, let all that go and realize that he might be just saying that out of a little bit of insecurity because there's still a tiny bit of insecurity in you. Anyway, so instead of focusing on what I don't want, I'm going to focus on the version of the relationship that I actually want to experience. So that's perfect. At night, I would do my end scene. I would play music, close my eyes, and visualize him telling me that I'm the best he's ever had, that he loves me, and that we were together. In the mornings, I would wake up and read my notes. I literally had notes reminding me that I was his wife. I would write my name with his name last as his last name and read it as though it was already true that we were already married. And one thing every single day, and I actually still do, is I wear a ring. I would look at it and think, I'm so happy to be his wife. And he's such a happy husband, always make things equal. It wasn't about desperately trying to make something happen. It became a way of reminding myself of the identity I wanted to embody. And throughout the day, whenever I naturally thought about him, I wasn't busy doing something else. I would affirm, not obsessively, not every 5 seconds, just naturally. And looking back now, I think the biggest difference was that I eventually stopped needing the outside world to prove anything to me. I stopped needing to see movement. I stopped needing to know what he was doing. And I stepped back and then he came back. So, Kim, I genuinely cannot thank you enough for the guidance you gave me. I went from crying over this man every single day and feeling like I was completely lost control and that I completely lost control out of my life to getting to a point where I actually felt like myself again. And then having him unexpectedly reach out to me after months apart. So thank you, Kim, for helping me find my confidence again. And more importantly, for helping me realize that I am the prize with a big heart. If you don't believe in yourself, and this isn't to my client, this is to some of you guys. If you don't believe in yourself, if you lost belief in yourself, maybe because of an ex or a bad experience that happened, and you don't trust in yourself, you don't trust in love anymore, then your mirror soul has no choice but to reflect that lack of belief, trust, and love back to you. Okay. So I know that it can be painful. I know that it can hurt, but realize this. Okay. So affirm down below. I trust in the oneness between me and my true love. Our life together is everything we've always wanted it to be. Insert whatever you'd like. I intend that this video helped. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.